now that I've introduced Mike, I got to start the recording. So before I forget, John and Mike have been partners for a number of years. They'll probably explain that, but John's the chief executive officer of Activate Brain and Body. And I believe you guys at one time were owners of 21 clubs is at the same time. Is that correct?
Yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
and they've come out to Functional Aging Institute headquarters and seen what we do here at Miracles Fitness, and really sort of got excited about this whole aging opportunity. And they've teamed up with Martin Pisani of Activate, who's our keynote speaker tomorrow. And so I'm going to turn it over to you guys. I'm going to be here if you need something, you need me to help answer a question or any tech issues, but it's really your time. You've got till 12:30. So you've got 58 minutes and counting. And I'll ask those of you in the room to basically do what I'm doing, keep your video off so our attention's on them. And when we need to turn your mics on for questions, we'll do that. So take it away, guys.
All right, sounds good. Let me start my slideshow here. So, as Dan mentioned, my name is John Spence. I'm here with my business partner, Mike Gelfgot. Just a little bit more about who we are and what our background is. We started as, actually Mike and I met at a big box fitness center. And then shortly after we met, within the next couple of years of that meeting, we started an Anytime Fitness location. We grew that to, at one point, we even operated 23 locations in 3 states. I was the Anytime Fitness Operator of the Year in their system. I was the #1 operator in their system back in 2008. And then in 2015, we won an award that I was actually the most proud of. That was their Philanthropy Award, for their Community Outreach Award. That's for the franchisee who does the most works in their charitable works in their community. And that's the one we're probably the most proud of. We oversaw 22 locations in Indiana and Ohio. We also had a club in Michigan at one point. And over that period, about a 15-year period, we built and purchased about 23 locations. And I've got probably over 40,000 hours of club operational experience. And then in 2018, we engaged in what was at the time, it was the largest transaction, both in terms of dollars and numbers of units in the Anytime Fitness history, when we sold our locations. And now currently I'm working with Mike Gelfgot and the Activate team, Martin Pisani, Marie Stoner, Adam Ortman, who are also speakers here at the FAI conference. I'm working with them on a mission called Activate Brain and Body, which is a brain health centric fitness studio. And we're going to open our first location. We've got a lease in the works, and we're hoping to have that brick and mortar location open by November of this year. To my left, my business partner for many years, my partner in crime, is Michael Gelfgot. Mike actually immigrated to the U.S. from the former Soviet Union, the other side of the Iron Curtain, back in 1993. This is a very interesting piece of trivia. Inside of the Anytime Fitness community, there's this tradition, this ritual of Anytime Fitness tattoos. Mike and I both have this tattoo. Thousands of people worldwide have the Anytime Fitness tattoo now, people ranging from vendors to corporate employees to personal training clients, members, staff. And Mike was the very first person to ever get an Anytime Fitness tattoo, and he started that tradition. Back in 2012, out of the Anytime Fitness now has about 5,000 locations worldwide. And again, we're no longer Anytime Fitness multi-club operators. We're focusing on other things. But in terms of Anytime, there are thousands and thousands of personal trainers inside of that system. And back in 2012, Mike was the very first Anytime Fitness personal trainer of the year. And probably what's more impressive, in the subsequent years, 2013, 2016, 2018, Mike personally trained the person who became the Anytime Fitness personal trainer of the year in those 3 years. In addition to that, one of the things that we're the most proud of is, out of all of the millions of members, there are millions of members inside of that franchise, every year they recognize a handful of people for success stories, people that have really transformed their lives through fitness. And Mike led a team that produced 2 of those wonderful success stories. a gentleman named Stanley Holler and a gentleman named Roy Davis, who dramatically changed their lives through fitness. And that was 2013 and 2018. Mike has several certifications. In addition to that, he writes for PFP, for Club Industry magazine. He writes for an Australian Fitness Network magazine, and he's currently the chief operating officer of Activate Brain and Body. Just to touch on Activate, we're opening one studio by the end of this year. Sometime in 2022, we'll launch what's hopefully our second and third locations. We hope to scale Activate Brain and Body relatively quickly. So on to the agenda for today. The agenda for today is the secret, our secret, in how we grew our business and how we will grow Activate, and it's something that we call the glue. Now, what is the glue? The glue is simply a shared set of beliefs that bond us all together as an operation, as an organization. And those beliefs are based on your core values of your organization, your organizational mission statement, and probably what's just as important is the buy-in to those core values into that mission statement. For example, if you have a football team and you have a variety of really talented players, high integrity, but they don't buy into your plan to win those games, it doesn't matter how good your mission statement or your vision statement or your core values are, you're not going to win a whole lot of games without that buy-in. So that buy-in results in something that we call Fanatic Discipline. And Mike will talk about that a few moments later. So the glue is really the secret of our success over a number of years breaks down to, I think, really one thing. We were able to get a high quality of team member to stay with us for many, many years when they could have easily left our industry to make more money someplace else. I'm always careful when I talk about that because it sounds maybe a little bit diabolical or manipulative that we got people to stay with us when they could have easily left our industry and they could have done something else. Well, it's not diabolical or manipulative at all. We actually gave them something better. We're talking about people with incredible sales skills. I've worked in a couple of different industries, and one thing I know for sure is that the best fitness salespeople could compete in any industry. People who really understood health and fitness at a very, very high level, and people who wanted to make a difference in people's lives. These are the kinds of people, performers that could easily leave our industry and make more money doing something somewhere else. Just think for a moment about what we sell in the fitness industry. We sell something that's intangible. Most people don't want to do it. I'm guessing some of the people in this room want to do it. They enjoy the actual part of fitness where they're doing the exercise. Most people don't want that. They want the results that come from that. And if they could get those results by not exercising, they simply would. So we have to sell that. And then in addition, to get the results that somebody wants, we're going to ask them to pay us upfront in most cases. And then we're going to ask them to show up and continue to work out. And then we're going to ask them to change their nutrition in ways that sometimes they don't like. That's a very challenging thing to sell. And we've had a variety of people over the years that have come to work with us in the fitness business. And what we've found is when they compare it to sales jobs they've had someplace else, they've described the fitness sales as some of the most challenging sales that they've ever done. I've got some breaking news for you that I've said this before, that we were able to get people to stay working for us in this industry when they could have easily left the fitness business and done something more lucrative. That does not mean that there are not lucrative opportunities in the fitness industry. There are tons, but just to break it down into something that's real and tangible, the fitness business is not the highest paying industry. And your success in building a team will depend on your ability to hire and retain high quality team members. And the team with the best players will win. That's according to the legendary CEO Jack Welch from General Electric. And here's a news flash for you. According to Indeed, based on job listings posted on Indeed, the median US trainer income in 2019 was $46,000 a year. Now that's based on 40 hours a week. If you've had those people, and I'm sure if you've done this long enough, you'll have this happen where people really like the physical aspect of the job. They like the anatomy, they like the physiology, they like working with people. For a casual onlooker, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between a high quality personal trainer and a physical therapist, just for a casual onlooker. A physical therapist in the US, based on a 40-hour work week, according to Indeed.com, makes about $94,000 a year. We're gonna need those salespeople that I talked about, high quality salespeople. If you have any doubt that a high quality fitness salesperson could easily go work in software sales, you've got another thing coming, because they're frequently better than those people. And in America, according to Indeed.com, software salespeople will earn about $76,000 a year. Pharmaceutical salespeople will earn about $79,000. Medical device sales, again, is about $76,000. And let's say they just want to stay in the community and they want to work at the local insurance broker. Maybe they want to sell Progressive or Allstate. Those guys will make about $57,000 a year. And just to put a little bit of salt in that wound, if you've been doing this long enough, you'll undoubtedly have somebody say to you, hey, I could make this money working at McDonald's. Well, they're not lying. According to Indeed.com, the average fast food manager in America will make about $48,000 a year. That's more than our standard personal trainer. So how do we get those people to stay with us? First of all, we have to accept that we need very, very highly talented people, and those people can leave to do something else. They can leave where they're going to make money somewhere else. So how do we get those people to stay with us? Well, we've got to offer them something more valuable than money. We've got to offer them an opportunity to be part of something bigger than just themselves. And we've got to offer them the opportunity to make an impact on people's lives every single day. We've got to offer them a fun and engaging place to work with a company that truly cares about them. Now, the reason I put truly in all caps is because every company is going to tell you that they truly care about you, but you're going to have to demonstrate that. You're going to have to demonstrate that with how you spend your time and energy developing your staff as a leader. So the first part of this is the core values. So it's core values, it's mission statement, and it's that fanatical discipline that comes with the action and the buy-in. When Mike and I worked together, we spent an extended period of time developing a variety of core values, and it really became the meat and potatoes of what our company was all about. And I'm not going to take you through a detailed definition of what all those core values are. I've got a couple that I'm going to highlight for you today, but I'll just briefly take you through what those 10 core values we developed as an organization were. Number one was a belief in fitness. Number two was integrity. Number three was development. Number four was being a little bit kooky, a little bit different. If you've spent any time with Mike Gelfgot, some of you in the room have, you know he has no problem with being a little bit kooky. Grit, the ability to maintain a high level of work ethic and perseverance over time. Teamwork, personal accountability, helping people, respect, and an understanding of our need to be profitable as an organization. I've decided just to highlight a couple of key core values for you. The first one is our core value number one, which was a belief in fitness. You can't, according to Zig Ziglar, the legendary sales trainer, you cannot be one kind of person and another kind of salesperson. You know, if you're going to adapt that to our business, you can't be one kind of person and another kind of personal trainer, one kind of person and another kind of facility manager. You actually have to walk the walk. We don't just sell fitness. We don't just take people through sessions or classes. We live the lifestyle. This was always important because people, when we grew a chain of fitness centers, people would always ask me, John, do you have to hire fit people? And the truth is you don't, but you have to hire people who are a work in progress, somebody who is working towards being more fit every single day. They want to improve their lives because they're going to serve as the example for so many other people that are struggling to make those changes in their life. That was our core value number one. I highlighted one more. It's personal accountability. If it is to be, it's up to me. The top performers in any walk of life are people that realize that everything about their life is a result of decisions that they've made along the way. A culture where we celebrate our successes and we also take responsibility for our failures. You know, Mike and I are big fans of Tony Robbins, and Tony describes personal accountability in terms of something called the Niagara Syndrome. The Niagara Syndrome is where somebody will, they'll be floating down the river and the river is very calm and they have an opportunity anytime they want to take their boat and go over to a shoreline and get off the river. But they delay and they delay and they delay. And then pretty soon they're looking at Niagara Falls, and no matter how hard they paddle, they're going to go over those falls. And that's what decision-making is all about when it comes to personal accountability. You have to realize the reason that you're there, and you're going to face some kind of a setback. It could be a financial setback. It could be a relationship setback. It could be a setback with your business, but it's a result of your inability to make decisions before things got too bad. But that's a result of your decision-making. So the keys to developing these core values. Number one, you got to read this book, Tribal Leadership, by Dave Logan and John King. It's like a guide, a step-by-step guide to how do you develop a culture inside of a company. There's nothing better than this. And the book was so good that Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos, actually bought the audio and put it on the internet for free for people to download. So you don't actually even have to buy the book. You can download the audio for it. Just search for Tribal Leadership audio, and you'll find a variety of places on the internet where it's available for free. Two, you got to survey your current team. If you're not starting an organization, you have an existing organization, and you're going to develop core values for your organization. You got to find out what's important to the people that you currently have, because the buy-in from them is the most important thing when it comes to your core values. You got to take your time. I work with a variety of Anytime Fitness owners in a mastermind group that Mike and I run, and I help them develop what their core values are for their organization. And we spend a number of weeks. We actually, as an organization, spent months developing what those core values were for our organization. But I'll guide other owners through it, and we spend a number of weeks on it. And then you got to put them front and center in your business. Once you develop those core values, you got to make sure that you don't put them in a binder and file them away and never talk about them again. They have to be front and center. And it has to be a situation where your staff understands that you're living these things every single day. You've got to live your core values. One of the most damaging things that you can do for your organization is to spend the time and energy developing these core values, but then not live them. You put them away, and then once in a while somebody says, core values, yeah, I think we have those. I think we have those someplace. And then you dig them out and you realize that nobody's actually following those core values. The next step beyond core values is the development of your mission statement. I will turn it over to Mr. Gelfgot, and he can tell you about how to develop a mission statement in your organization. Mike, go ahead and take my chair.
Yep. John, thanks for the wonderful intro and reminding me why core values are significant. You guys, let's talk about core values. So in our past business, Anytime Fitness, the core value, or I'm sorry, not the core value, the mission statement of the brand was to raise the self-esteem of the world. So the question always is, how do you take any mission statement, whatever your mission statement is, and apply it on a day-to-day basis? Because that's what's critical. It can't be something just up in the cloud that we see and we never actually do anything about. So the way that we did it inside of our organization is we did it through cultural events. Simon Sinek wrote a book called The Leaders Eat Last, and John touched on this a little bit earlier in the presentation, where the number one thing that your staff needs the most from you is your time and your energy. So you got to keep that in mind as you're thinking about doing things as it relates to your mission statement. So this is my definition of cultural events. A cultural event is an event that allows you to build into your team, spend time and energy on your team, have fun, of course, with your team, and overall deposit into relationship capital with your team. This deposit into a relationship with your team is critical, because at some point you're going to withdraw, be it reprimanding or just being tough on your staff. As long as you have that a bank account, so to say, and you're depositing to that relationship by spending time and energy, you're good to go. This overall sort of behavior is then translated, of course, onto your customers, and overall develops the kind of care that every business should exemplify with their customers. And once again, just to make sure we're all clear, this all has to live up to whatever your mission statement is, and our then mission statement was, which was to raise the self-esteem of the world. So when I say cultural events, I want to talk about it from two different perspectives. One, of course, cultural events with your staff, with your team, and then two, cultural events with your members. Let's talk about staff first. So step one, someone has to be in charge of an event that you're putting on with your team. It makes sense, but I'm just going to be Mr. Obvious and throw it out there. Number two, like, what's the cost, right? So John did some really, really wonderful things with our staff, and he would have these impromptu sort of trips, and I'll talk about specifically what those trips were. And he would say, hey, Mike, I need 10, 15 people that want to do this, this, or this. We'll talk about what this is here in a minute. But what's cool about that is this: he was able to spend that quality time with those people. And you guys remember, you build your organization not 9 to 5, sort of say, right? You build your organization outside of your normal working hours. What's cool about it is John, out of his own pocket, paid for those trips. And what he did is, and I want to give you guys specifics, so if you're going to do something like that, anywhere between 50 to almost 100% of the impromptu trips, because he realized the significance that this would make on our staff. Most of them couldn't afford to do some of these things. Now, if you're putting on events like holiday parties, or if you're putting on events like those sort of events for your staff, then of course you need to cover all the expenses for the event. What's important is not to be cheap, especially when you're throwing on a Christmas party or you're throwing on some sort of a New Year's Eve party. If that's what you're going to do, get a good venue, get some high quality food. If you have some door prizes, get some high quality stuff. In my opinion, the way that you have arrived is if people are willing to get babysitters to go to whatever is it that you're asking your staff to come to. To me, that makes a lot of sense on why someone would want to go, because obviously it's a good event. One of the things that we did is we did this event called Anytime After Hours, which I'll mention more on the next slide. And essentially it was once a month, 6 or 6:30 is on a Friday night. Like, who wants to spend time with the owner or their manager at 6:30 on a Friday night after you just worked a full day? So we would put on these events and we would bribe people to come. With the first 5 people, $25, or most of the time it was with high quality food and just some beer and some wine, and of course great company. Like I said, I'll mention that here in a minute. More as far as what the Anytime After Hour events were. But you can't forget that you have to have fun. And I know that kind of an implied factor there. As far as your members goes, once again, you have to have somebody in charge of it. Number 2, you have to spend money on it. Like, we always spend money to get new customers. The question is, how much money do you spend keeping your customers? So my advice would be $2 to $3 per client, right? So if you got 50 clients, you're spending $3 per client, $150 a month. I mean, you could put on a pretty good show for your current members at $150 a month. Think about all the different things you could do. I'll give you some specifics in the next slide. You have to have a sign-up sheet, especially if you're running team training sessions or small group training sessions, to actually sign people up and saying, John, you're going to this event. We're going to this place. Bring a buddy. Are you in? Be intentional about it. And of course, ask people to bring their friends, right? So let me give you some specifics of what we did as far as cultural events with our staff to live up to our mission statement, which was then to raise the self-esteem of the role. So I mentioned the event anytime after hours. So some of the different topics that we covered was this. So remember, the event was once a month. This is all about personal development, you guys. So once a month, 6:30 on a Friday night, we would encourage people to come. And it had the topics that we covered had nothing to do with sales or like whatever we were asking them to do during day to day. The topics were all about to help them with their personal lives. So for example, John did a topic, it's a big hit on personal finances. We used Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University as the reference on what to do and how to do it. And John did a big workshop on that. I mean, we motivated people to, sell their cars to get rid of their $400 or $500 a month payments. That was really cool. One of our district managers did a workshop on time management. Much like money, time also tends to disappear fairly quickly unless you budget and know how to budget the time. Most of us, and what I remember this lady, her name is Tanae, what she said, most of us are not busy. She says most of us are under organized. There's a difference between being busy versus under organized. And sometimes we get confused between doing busy work versus productive work. So anyways, good workshop for your staff to make sure they understand the difference. And of course, the basic workshop on goal setting, not just professional goal setting, but in general, personal goal setting, right? In your personal day-to-day life, that most of our staff don't always know how to set and then achieve. And I think more importantly, this is more personal for me, and John did a really good job with this most of the time, is celebrating when you actually do accomplish your goal. Holiday parties, right? That makes sense, like Christmas parties and stuff. These are the impromptu trips that John did that I would encourage you guys to do. Don't even tell people about it. Maybe give them a week or two notice or something like that and say, hey, we're planning this event to come, whether it be beer and wine tour, sporting events, downhill mountain biking. I think I'm still fearful of that downhill mountain biking trip. This was fun. So once a year, we would set a big goal as an organization. So typically it was from January through March, April is when the promotion ran. And if we hit a big goal as an organization, we then take our staff on a trip. So it's very fun. It's very exciting for staff to work harder and give them a reason to come to work other than their paychecks. And like John mentioned earlier, how do we get people to stay with us? Well, Mexico trips was one of those things, because most people, at least that we worked with, they had a hard time budgeting their dollars. Maybe they had one or two kids and they couldn't justify the money. So this was a way for them to go on the trip. All they had to do is work just a little bit harder on a day-to-day basis. With our members, gosh, there's a variety of things that we did. I'm going to throw them all out there. And I just want to point out the top one. Mudstache was just a muddy obstacle course. It was never about how fast or how slow someone runs. It was more so about if you're able to accomplish this muddy obstacle course, meaning start it and finish it, set a goal to train for it and finish it. I mean, there's no better way to raise one's self-esteem and one's confidence is by setting it, having them set a goal and accomplish it, right? And the relationships that the trainers build by helping their clients get out of mud or helping them overcome some sort of obstacle were incredible, right? Anyways, you guys can imagine what that would do to your overall organization if once a year you plan some sort of a physical event, you train your clients for it, and then you go and do it together, right? I mean, to John, the best part, and to me as well, but the best part about this whole Mudstache event, well, I guess for both of us, would have been the pictures afterwards, right? That everybody would put on their Facebook pages. So anyways. So on a monthly basis, you got to look for ways to engage your members in these cultural events. And as long as you're doing that with your staff will naturally transfer that same TLC to your members as well. Last event I'm going to touch on, which is just a lot of fun, is dogs and coffee. Come on, who doesn't like their dogs? I have a dog. I love my dog, and it's fun for members to bring their dogs. You buy some coffee and you hang out, right? All of this, so your core values, your mission statement, it all leads to one thing, and it's called Fanatic Discipline. We borrowed that language from a book called Great by Choice. Jim Collins talks about this. This is really interesting. Like if you ever are in stress or your business is in turmoil or things are uncertain, like COVID-19 sort of times, what Jim talks about is this. These are the three things that you can control that will pull you out of that situation. And he cites all sorts of specific examples of other companies using Fanatic Discipline, empirical creativity, and productive paranoia to help to get themselves out of a rut, sort of say. So, but particularly on Fanatic Discipline, I want to tell you guys a story that he talks about in his book. So you have these two explorers, Robert Scott and Roald Amundsen, and they set out to essentially get to, it was a race between the two of them who can get to the South Pole first. Both had completely two different strategies on how to do it. Scott, when the weather was nice, he went 50 miles. When the weather was terrible, he sat in his tent. When somebody complained, he empathized with the complaint and he didn't do anything about it. Amundsen, on the other hand, had a different approach. His approach was this: when the weather was nice, he went 20 miles. When the weather was bad, he went 20 miles. When somebody complained it was cold, he went 20 miles. No matter what, he went 20 miles. So this term created, or was this term 20-mile march was born out of this particular story. And I want to read to you guys two different mindsets on how to get things done. So Amundsen's mindset was this: victory awaits him who has everything in order. Luck, people call it. Defeat is certain for him who has neglected to take the necessary precaution in times. This is called bad luck. In other words, he takes personal accountability. Versus Robert Scott, our luck in weather is preposterous. Of course, it's the weather. It's more than our share of ill fortune. How great may be the element of luck. How is it possible you have two guys almost had identical routes, right? And they have completely two different attitudes. And of course, who got to the South Pole first? Of course, it's the guy with the 20-mile march. Out of that book, and then what's his name? Jim Collins, he brings up specific stories where the 20-mile march, or that set of discipline, that set of fanatic discipline, essentially created a certain set, certain guidelines that companies would then follow. So we took these guidelines that these other companies had, and we took this 20-mile march based on this book, and we said, okay, so what is our set of disciplines that we know we need to adhere to make sure that we hit our goals? We were a team that believed in core values. We lived up to our core values. We were all about our mission statement. We're all about raising the self-esteem of the world. So that breeds a certain level of action. So we needed to hone in on our action to make sure that our staff are doing the right things and not just staying busy for the sake of being busy. So we created this, what's called the SMAC formula, to help our team execute essentially better, right? So here's what's interesting, and I would encourage you guys, one, to read the book, and two, create your own SMAC formula. Figure out what your own 20-mile march is, because here's what's really unique. When we tracked the completion percentage of these boxes, right? So when 75% of these boxes were checked off, get this, 90% of the time those teams hit their goals. When 75% of those boxes were checked off, those teams hit their goal 90% of the time. And I thought that was pretty impressive. So to recap, I will invite Mr. John Spence back to the screen.
So we've got some time worked in today to share some ideas that you might have about how to motivate your teams and how to incorporate some of these core values. But I want to just recap real quick. So for us, it was developing what those core values are as an organization. It was aligning that mission statement about what your organization exists to do with those core values, and then figuring out a way to incorporate that in a way that you can get buy-in from your team. We've got, in addition to this session that we're doing today, we've also got a question and answer session. I want to touch on this a little bit before we get into any kind of question and answer. Presenting here at the Functional Aging Institute Summit is fun for us because actually that's how we got connected with the group that we are starting our next business venture with, which is called Activate Brain and Body. I mentioned it briefly before. Activate Brain and Body is a brick and mortar facility that's going to open in Cincinnati. We've got a specific workout that we call the cognitive circuit, which is designed to activate your brain. And if you put the brain first, what we find is that so much of your life is improved by that, and your body will follow. A big side benefit of training specifically for the brain is that you can actually make your body healthier as a side effect. So we're doing a question and answer session with some of the key players in that tomorrow. The keynote is going to be delivered by our chairman, Mr. Martin Pisani, who we met at the Functional Aging Institute. I believe his keynote is tomorrow morning at 10:30. But at 12:30 tomorrow, myself, Mike Gelfgot, our chief science officer, clinical psychologist, Marie Stoner, and our chief science officer, who's also presenting here at the Functional Aging Institute. He'll be there with us on this call tomorrow at 12:30, just to do a question and answer about what is Activate, how does your programming work, the science behind the cognitive workout. But we've also got some time built in today to just go through some questions and answers. So I'm going to go ahead and put up our contact information here. And then I'm going to end the slideshow and ask you guys to turn on your cameras if you want to engage on a Q&A. So of course, my name is John Spence. We've got Mike Gelfgot to the left of me. Our website for Activate is activatebrainandbody.com. And really the best email to, if you have questions about Activate, want to get involved in Activate, maybe be an operator in the future or a team member, our email address is info@activatebrainandbody.com. So let me go ahead and end this slideshow. All right. And we've got some time set aside for questions.
Yeah, if people want to ask questions, you can go ahead and type those in the chat. If you want to come on video, feel free. No pressure to do that, but feel free to come on video if you want to ask your question. I can make sure to get you unmuted, or you can type it in the chat. And then before we get off of here, John, let's put that contact slide up again, so it's at the end of the recording, because I know usually how these things go, 10 minutes into Q&A, people are like, wait, how do I contact these guys again? So we'll make sure to close with that before we get off of here. Any questions at all for Mike and John? I'm going to start with a couple questions I have is, when's the first Activate set to open? Where? And maybe tell us a little bit about it in terms of square footage, how many trainers it's going to have, what does an Activate sort of fitness operation look like?
Yeah, we love to talk about Activate. So Activate in Cincinnati is, we picked probably one of the most affluent areas on the north side of Cincinnati called Montgomery. It's about a 5,000 square foot brick and mortar facility. Our model is based on small group training. We've got a specific circuit training workout that we take people through that's cognitively loaded, and it also focuses on functional movement and getting your heart rate up. There's some wonderful things that happen inside of the brain when you can get your heart rate up to a certain level. So what we do is we get people's heart rate up, and then we put them in situations where they have to solve problems or they have to react quickly. Mike, you want to add anything more about what Activate does?
You guys spot on. I mean, you could, I guess you could bucket it into three things, right? It's functional training, right? It's stress management training, and it's agility training, right? All of which will improve the health and the well-being, not only, of course, of your body, but mainly your brain.
We've got Marie Stoner and Adam also presenting here at the Functional Aging Institute, and we're actually running the circuit that will be the base bones of Activate at a facility that we still happen to own, and we're testing people's cognition with a device called the CogniView. It's the same kind of device that you'd find if you went to a neurology office. They've got a really quick way to do an assessment of your ability to dual task, your memory, your executive function, and your processing speed. So we'll test people before and after they go through our Activate circuit. I think we're doing assessments every 8 weeks, and we're finding some really fantastic results. In addition to that, we've got a long-term study that we're doing with Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. So there's a lot of really great science. For those of you who don't know, Dan and Cody are on our advisory board, as well as another presenter here at the Functional Aging Institute Summit. He's working with us on an advisory contract. Ryan Glatt, your brain health certification coach.
Oh, cool. All right. Anybody have any questions for these guys? How they ran 20 plus clubs? Anybody want to turn their camera on and be social in the room? Feel free. Otherwise, just type it in the chat. There's Shelly coming back on. So
I'll ask a question. So I've got 3 full-time trainers who are amazing, and I want to keep them. And it's just like you said, I can only afford to pay them so much. 2 of them are my succession plans, so that's sort of keeping them invested. But I have contractors that they're very much dabblers. They have other jobs, and I've been able to keep them employed when their other stuff kind of dried up during lockdown. But I mean, I can't force them to come to meetings. I can't engage them very much in outside activities. The full-timers are great, but I almost worry that we're together too much too. So there's a fine line between what, wanting to engage them and keep them interested, and then burning them out and just making them sick of me and each other, right? So how do you manage that?
I have sometimes what's an unpopular decision or opinion about contractors, and that you can't build a business with contractors. You simply
I'm sorry,
can't.
I can't what?
You cannot build a business long term with independent contractors. It's sometimes it's a very unpopular opinion, but we bought a number of clubs over the years, and sometimes we would buy these clubs and they would have contractors. And we offered them an opportunity to come aboard as employees, either full-time or part-time in some cases. But we just didn't allow independent contractors in our facility. And I'll tell you, it's not because they're not great people, right? But it's not because they're not highly skilled. But what you described, your inability to get them to show up at meetings, they're running a business inside of your business. They're never going to be fully aligned with what your goals are. I talked about what our core values were, and how one of them was an understanding of our need to be profitable. They're never going to be aligned with you in that way, that they're going to help you be profitable, because they're focused on their incentive base. They're focused on building their own business, and that's great. That's not a reflection of them, but it makes it organizationally, it makes it really, really challenging to get them to buy into being part of your team if you've got independent contractors. Now, I know people that have run clubs that do a nice job with independent contractors, but my advice to all of our consulting clients is, pull off the Band-Aid. Find employees, find people that buy into that they're able to align their success with your success. And just the nature of the relationship with owner and independent contractor is never going to fully allow that alignment.
Okay, these guys, I just don't know how I'm going to, it's evening people, right? The daytime stuff is covered by the full-timers, which is great. So I'm almost to the point where I struggle so much to find somebody. I mean, who's going to want to do a part-time evening job? Like that's the thing. I'm almost at the point where I think I just shut down the place at 6 p.m. and we all go home, and then I can rent it out to independent contractors or, a yoga instructor or something like that, rather than, struggle with trying to keep these part-time contractors.
Shelley, almost every situation I've ever seen where an operator has struggled with this decision, and then they've made it, and then they've hired somebody. And by the way, it's a very challenging job market right now. There's a lot of reasons for that. But, Mike and I consult with a variety of owners from across the country and for Canada. And it's a challenging job market. There's no question about it. But I believe that the people are out there. Every time we work with somebody and they've made the decision to eliminate the contractor part of their business model, and they look back at it a year later or 2 years later, they're happy with those decisions.
Yeah, and I would say, Shelley, probably.
It's
I would say,
expensive.
Shelley, probably.
I don't know what your payroll deductions like for the government, right? That's income tax and the Canada pension plan and the employment insurance. Like it adds 25% to my payroll.
Well, so, and I was going to speak to that. So Shelley, actually, so it's kind of goes back also on you. What does Shelley want? Like,
Yeah.
what would she like to see happen? What's Shelley's vision of this thing? If in a perfect world, what does it look like, right? And so you can pull one or two levers. It's a one, okay, it's a pain in the butt. It's these guys they're so frustrated, can't get anything done with them. So one lever you can pull is just screw it. I shut my facility down at 6 o'clock, like you said, right? And just maybe give access to my independent contractors and then just charge them whatever rent. Or the other part of it is get more clients, right? Or the other part is expand your business, right? Figure out another way for you to generate more money. So it gives those guys more responsibility so you can afford to bring them on payroll, right? So, but once again, it goes back to what would Shelley like to see happen in the next 6 to 12 months or 18 months? And how does that affect Shelley's, quality of life?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I want to get out of here. Oftentimes, one of them is not available. Guess who has to cover?
On deck all the time. Sure. Yeah. I mean, and that's the fine line. It's like, what do I want, right? What would be most like, and sometimes, listen, I think John and I probably learned the hard way. It's fine to get out of there early, and enjoy a fine.
Have a life.
Exactly. At nighttime.
Family,
It's fine to do that. Yeah. It's okay to do that.
Whenever I talk about how we were able to get people to stay here that could have gone to another industry and they could have made more, sometimes I get some criticism like, well, don't you feel bad because you didn't pay people what they were worth? And, hopefully if you've sat through the presentation, you understand that's not what we're trying to do is pay people less than their worth, but we have to find a way to make our business model work. Right. In Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he talks about a company called Nucor Steel, and Nucor had this idea when it came to staffing, that instead of hiring 10 people, they would hire 6 people, pay or work them like 10 and pay them like 8, right? So they would hire fewer people, work them harder, but they would pay them a lot more than they could make someplace else. And the employee that was willing to work hard would make more money, and the company would save 20% on their overall payroll costs, right?
Yeah.
You cannot do that with independent contractors, because in our facilities, everybody had cleaning responsibilities, for instance. Now, that doesn't mean we didn't have other cleaners that would come in. That was their job to clean our facilities, right? We didn't have, we expected everyone to answer the phone. We expected everyone to have a high level of customer service. We would have, at these situations where we had independent contractors, somebody would come in and they would say, hey, I'm just here to find out about the facility. And independent contractors would be, polite, but like, yeah, it's not really my gig. It's not my job, right?
Yeah, I've got that.
Yeah, and that's when I start wrestling, Shelley. That's when I start throwing it down. And most of the time I get beaten.
He does. He
All right. I know Bruno has a question, our California Canadian. Bruno, can you turn your camera on? If you can't, that's fine. I think you're unmuted. So Bruno, you can ask your question next. Thanks, Shelley.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn my camera on, but it says your video because the host has stopped it.
Try again. I asked you to start it. Hopefully there he is. There he is.
Okay. All right. So my name is Bruno. I'm the owner and founder of Still Got It Fitness. We're south of Los Angeles. And so I went from, working 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, wearing all the hats. And now I'm at a point where I'm opening my second location in Redondo Beach, California. And all I did was hiring forward in the last year and a half. So I went from doing all the trainings, now I have 4 trainers. I have a salesperson I just hired Monday, was my last hat I was wearing. I have a marketing person. I got a general manager. So now I don't do anything related to the business other than trying to scale. So my goal is to open a second location and have this facility as a proof of concept to franchise and grow. So we're really focused on a customer experience, building relationship with people. When you walk in my gym, the lobby looks like a roadside diner. So I got Dan's been there, so we've seen it. So I got roadside signs. I got a little coffee bar, couches, tables and chairs. People do a puzzle. I got a stock market on TV, and it doesn't look like a gym. It doesn't smell like a gym. So we're really community oriented. And also, our other aspect is, results. So my question to you is, so I want to grow this to a national brand. And so I have a team right now that I think, it's a team of rock stars. But, a little bit like Shelley, not everybody's pulling their weight. And I'm always, very demanding, which I've been told. So I'm having a hard time to, manage the whole thing and go to the next level and, hiring forward and. So what would you suggest for me to do? Right now I'm concentrating opening a second location, proof of concept, but I have grand ideas, and probably I'll be talking to you, you guys, about, what you're doing also. And so we have personal training and we do group training as well.
I'll start. The first thing I would go back to is what this presentation was about. I worked with, I visited a club owner I'm in Cincinnati. I visited a club owner in Indianapolis the other day, and this guy's been in business for 7 or 8 years. And, I started talking to him. He's been a client of ours for a while, and I started talking about core values. And he's got these ideas and what his core values are. And then I asked his staff, when he went to lunch, I asked them about core values. And their idea about what the company was, what the reason that it existed and what their values were, couldn't have been any more disconnected from what the owner thought. So the owner had this one idea on what the company was, and the staff had a completely different idea from what the company was. I will submit to you that it is impossible to scale your operation if there's that disconnect between what you, the leader, has and what your followers have. And when you have that synergy that comes from everybody being aligned, then and only then can you start to scale an operation. So the first thing I would do is go back and I would read that book that I recommended, Tribal Leadership, and I would start developing what our core values are. A lot of organizations have core values and mission statements, by the way.
Yeah, we do.
But do they live them? And if I were to come to your facility and you were to go to lunch and I were to sit down with your staff and I would say, what do these core values mean to you? Give me examples of how they've been implemented in your day-to-day job here. Give me an example of a situation where this core value came up and you had to choose to live by this core value or take an easier route. What would your staff say? That would be step number one, is making sure that there's a consistent communication about why your organization exists between your team members and the leadership. What did you want to say?
Yeah, Bruno, let me ask you, have you ever heard of Entrepreneur Operating System, EOS? Have you ever heard of that before?
No.
No. So, yeah, if you want, write it down. It's Entrepreneur Operating System. So and this is to John's point. Like, I wish, Bruno, we would have done this process, worked this process after our first facility that we opened up, which was back in 2004. I bet you if we would have done this, our company would have been worth significantly more than what it was, right? And so the reason I bring it up is this: like I think it's one of the biggest challenges I would say that all owners or all managers face. Where on one hand, Bruno's gung ho, pumped up, he's got all this thing he wants to do, and then the staff is not as gung ho and pumped up. They don't necessarily want to do it, or they don't even have the right or clear expectations on what to do and how you want them to do it. right? And so oftentimes to me, like when I work with a lot of the clubs that we work with, there's a disconnect between, as John says, core values, between the weekly WIG meetings or wildly important goal meetings, between the what EOS calls the 90-day rocks. Like, what's the purpose? What's the mission? What are the two things as an organization we're working towards? Does everybody understand what they are? Do they have do you have regular meetings that you're meeting with them on a regular basis to check in to see how they're doing and providing help with them if they're not doing it? What you need is a plan, much like you were to give a client a plan. Hey, Dan, this is what you do. This is how you do it. This is what you eat. You need that type of a roadmap. We all do, to run and manage our business. And Bruno, that roadmap is EOS. You look it up. It'll change the way you run your entire organization. It'll tighten things up. It'll close gaps where there are gaps between you and the team.
You know, the first part of the EOS is based on this book, Traction. I can't remember who wrote, at least Lencioni.
Yeah, Patrick Lencioni. Yep.
He wrote Traction. You know, which reminds me that when we were cobbling together our business and we were learning, we were reading these different books along the way, you know, we started pulling something from over here, you know, Jim Collins' Good to Great, Great by Choice, from Lencioni's book, or Michael Gerber's book, the E-Myth. EOS has this all packaged together. Having that system is super important. You know, there was a study done on millionaires, people that started with nothing and accumulated $1 million in net worth. And on average, it took them 21 years to become millionaires. And then they took the study a little bit further and they looked at people who had lost all of their money, that had been millionaires, that lost all of their money, and then became millionaires again. And the second time, it took an average of like 4.5 years, right? Now the significance of that is they had already learned the skills. They already had the operating system in place, right? Why reinvent the wheel? And the second time when they're going out and building those organizations, building that value, they've already got those skill sets. They've already got those tools. And that's what we'll do with Activate. You know, we won't spend 15 years building 23 locations. We'll spend about, 4 or 5 years before we have that many locations, or maybe less than that. I don't know, because we've already got the skill set. We've already got those tools.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that came out of COVID, we had a little bit more time, so we were able to write our entire operating system manual. So, that really, really helped. So, I mean, I always knew I wanted to do it. And, I hear all the time, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to your level of your systems. So we were able to write our own operating manual to go to the next level. So that's one thing that came out of, but I really want to see what that EOS is, know more about it.
Bruno, you'll love it. It's nice that and way to go on actually taking time and writing down all your operations on paper. But I'm telling you, EOS will take your business to a completely whole nother level. You'll love it. You'll love every bit of it.
All right, we got to wrap up here, guys. I'll do one more question real quick. If anybody is dying to ask these guys something quick, we do have live lunch Q&As with Naboso, Emily Splickle, and Kaiser starting actually right now. So not in this room, thank goodness, or we'd be getting kicked out. But in 2 other rooms, we do have live Q&As going on. So any last questions? I'll give one last question. John, can you put up your contact info again? Because I know the people watching this on the recording on Tuesday are going to be like, how do I contact these guys? They said a lot of stuff. So if we can close with that, that'd be great. Yeah, great. There it is. Any final questions from anyone? If not, you've got their contact info. They gave you their email. Ask Mike when the next trip to Mexico is, where he's buying. Those are always good ones. So you got to pay it's a trick. You got to pay your own way, and then it's all inclusive. So he's like, hey, let's go eat again. All right. I don't see any other questions coming in on the chat. Shelly's saying I'm going to order some books now. For sure. Yeah, these guys gave some great book suggestions. Well, Mike and John, thanks so much for your time participating in the summit, and we'll look for you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow, you guys are the one and only lunch Q&A, and I know we'll have others from Activate on that as well. Martin's keynote in the morning, and also the other Activate session releases early in the morning. It's one of the recorded sessions. So thanks again, everyone, for being here. We hope to see some of you in the live lunch Q&As, and then live sessions resume at 1:30 Eastern. So check which room you want to be in at 1:30. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dan.